Good. All right. Once again, my name's Gary Ham. In case I haven't met you, I'm the leader of the Tech Valley SolidWorks user group. I want to first off thank you guys for coming, and I want to thank Brad and Adam for being here tonight, presenting for us. I just wanted to give you a heads up. I've got another meeting on July 12th. It's kind of something that just fell into our lap. We'll have Too Tall Toby presenting. We'll be at a different location, but we will be streaming that as well. Once again, I just want to thank you all for coming, and thanks, Brad and Adam.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Hearing double on her end.
Yeah, it probably was. Check now. My speaker was on, but I muted it. I'm sitting in there just not even had a few different speakers in there.
All right. Let's see. All right.
Yep. Oh.
There we go. Let's try it now. Does that sound better? All right. Cool. All right. Hello, everyone. Hi. Come on, enthusiasm here. You guys got great food and all right. My camera is not on. There we go. Hey, two handsome dudes on the screen now. Hey. All right. I'm sure my wife is just gagging over there with all the attitude. It's all right. Go ahead and shrink that down. All right. So today we're going to go over some tips and tricks, and just kind of go over some things. I like questions and comments and things. So if you have a tip and a trick that kind of goes with it, feel free to shout it out, and we kind of back and forth conversation. That way I'm not sitting here just talking to you like Charlie Brown's teacher and everybody just gets bored. I don't know why it did that. Oh yeah. Of course I broke it. I have my slides backwards. That's okay. All right. So we're going to kind of go over an introduction, tips and tricks, and Q&A. So pretty self-explanatory. It's a PowerPoint. That's the way we roll. So my name is Tank. My government name's Brad Meador, but I don't think anybody knows who Brad Meador is. I'm a husband, a dad, a motorcycle minister, and currently an engineering student at Arizona State University for high voltage power transmission and creation. Overall technology nerd. But for my career, I am a project designer at Altec Industries. I build and design, or I design and build prototype cranes and large digger derricks, which is anything that puts a hole in the that digs a hole in the ground for a light pole, a power pole, even the big cell towers and things outside. Anything that's got for the electric utility industry or the communications industry. So our products service those. I'm also the SWUG leader, which is Roanoke, Virginia. A SolidWorks champion, and just recently I was elected the regional committee rep for the Mid-Atlantic region of the United States. So that's Maryland, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Virginia, and West Virginia, and Washington, D.C. And I'm also a certified SolidWorks expert. And but while we're here, we'll kind of touch on the Champions program. If you have not heard or seen the SolidWorks Champions program, please do yourself a favor. Go look up the Champions program online. It allows SolidWorks users to get together and try new products, talk to other SolidWorks users, collaborate on some ideas. You get access to different things for the 3D Experience platform, for SolidWorks, all the X-Shape, X-Design apps, and all that stuff as well. So if you have a chance, reach out. The leader for that is Matt Clegg. We have a special guest in the house, Dan Wagner, as the SolidWorks user group rep for SolidWorks. Is it user advocacy? Yes, user advocacy. And his counterpart, Matt Clegg, leads the Champions program. So if you are interested, please reach out to Matt Clegg or Dan, and they'll be able to hook you up and get you going. All right, enough talking. Let's get into some tips and tricks. So we're kind of go over some sketches, features, drawings, all that stuff. So let's get out of PowerPoint and let's go into SolidWorks. While we're here, Control Tab helps you cycle through everything. If you have not tried that or seen that much, do your Control Tab. It'll help you cycle through anything that's open inside your parts. We'll create a new part. Sketch. Boy, those things smell good. Why are you eating them sitting beside me, man? That's good.
You need them during my presentation.
It's distracting. All right. All right, so we'll kind of go over some sketching tips and tricks. Before I begin, does anybody have any struggles that they have with sketching, or any questions or whatnot you have before I get rolling? Because again, I like this to be a back and forth conversation. No? Okay. Did I steal your water? Oh, dang. Great, germs. All right. So first one, if you want to do, the line command, I know it's very similar to, uh-oh, did my mouse just die? Here it goes. There it is. Very similar to the very old and much, we don't say the AutoCAD word in here, but the same L command works to create lines. You got to drop your lines in. Does anybody know what the yellow constraint that pops up is on the screen? Yes, it is a constraint that is temporary, and it's like an assumed mate. So the green denotes, sorry, my wallet's going on. The green denotes that it's locked in, but the yellow denotes that it's trying to assume what you're wanting to do. Now, sometimes it's wrong. So you can turn that off or have it set. Now, what does the white one mean that pops up? I don't know if you can see it very well on the.
That means it won't add it, but it's going to snap.
Yes. Awesome. Power user here. All right, so we got some different constraints showing up. You got a coincident, concentric. I learned this the other day. How many constraints are there available to the user in sketch mode? Take a guess. How much? A dozen? Good. That's good. A good 16 higher. Don't say anything. Higher. Higher than 16. Got it. More. 31. There's 31 constraints. Just in 2D, just for the sketches. 31 constraints. Yep, just for sketches. I mean, SolidWorks has done its business, as far as finding what the users need. You want to move a full shaded area around, you just click inside. And, I want to kind of grab what I need, grab and drag. What about sketch colors? Everybody knows black is fully defined, blue underdefined. Don't make me play the song. I'm sure everybody's heard the fully defined every time by Too Tall Toby. If not, go find it on YouTube. It's an earworm. So while we're in here, we've got some dimensioning and things we need to do, but I don't have to actually go over to my dimensions tab, getting ready, pull it up, right mouse click, drag, mouse gestures, set it, and go. How many people actually use mouse gestures? A couple. How many do you use? 4, 6, 8, 8? How many do you use on a single? You just do like this, the standard 4. Just the standard 4. Okay, cool. You have the check in and check out for the SolidWorks PDM. That's pretty slick. I didn't know you could actually do that on the mouse gestures. I learned something that's new.
Recently, within the past couple of years.
Awesome. I like that. All right. One of the big ones I like on this is the dynamic mirror. I don't know if anybody's ever seen the dynamic mirror. We're going to set a center line. And we're going to, I got to find it. How would I go and find my command? It's not up on my screen here. Huh? Q? Q is for, well, yeah, I guess. No, Q just brings planes. S, yes. It brings up your S key toolbar and it brings you to a search command at the bottom. And it's it's the command search according to Mr. Adam down there. Dynamic mirror. Pick your plane. You see these two little lines, top and bottom. That denotes that dynamic mirror is going to be on until you turn it off. That just means it's a constant mirror plane. So if I want to come in and sketch a shape on one side of this plane, it'll start mirroring on the other side. I can also go on this side of it as well and just go and mirror, and just, if you know you're going to do something symmetrical, it just keep working instead of having to do one and then do a full mirror over afterwards, because I know some people don't want to do that.
Can you explode that if you don't want that anymore?
Yeah, you can. As far as like
If you want to get rid of the dynamic mirror, just have it be separate entities after that.
yes, you just have to delete the relations.
It creates a mirror.
It creates a mirror relations. So you come up here and do your into your relations tab using the display delete relations command, and then come down, find all the symmetrical ones you want to get rid of, and just delete them all. And then now you've got everything broken out. And then you just keep on working. Yeah, good question. But yeah, I love doing this. I'm a big fan of symmetry. I design across the center planes of everything so that I can mate. So doing this as well is one of my favorite things. What about centerline dimensions? I want to dimension the end of this part to be a certain width. Now I could dimension end to end if I would like. Find the dimension. I can also do a centerline dimension. I don't want that. I want a full, there we go. Drag it over and it does the same thing. It just dimensions, it assumes it is a symmetric dimension. SolidWorks is smart enough to assume that as well. So let's get out of that. What command repeats? Pop quiz. What command repeats the previous, or what key repeats the previous command? If you're trying to do things fast in a row, you want to keep doing the same command over and over again. Is it the F key?
One of the function.
Oh, function keys. F5's a refresh for like regular script stuff. Good question. Good answer. It's just the enter key. So if I want to draw a line over and over again, just keep hitting the enter key. And you can just keep rapid firing commands that way. All right, so let's go back in. What if I want to do an arc from the line command? If I'm out here drawing something really fancy and I decide I want to go back and draw the arc.
Go back to play.
Yes. You wouldn't believe how many people actually don't do that very much. They just assume I'll just draw the line, do a fillet inside of this, or go in and draw an arc and then tangent, 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 and do what they need. But notice it automatically creates the tangent relation inside. Let's get this dynamic mirror cut out of here because I don't need that. Man. We'll go back to our S key, type in our dynamic mirror, turn it off. But what if I want to find where it's at? I like to say poke the eyeball. It'll go through, open what you want, find it, and point to it with the little red arrow key. So if I want to reference it later in the future, I can. But notice the two little lines that were across the center line. Those two crossing lines are now gone. So now that denotes that you're finished with your sketch command. Or is your computer having an update? Wow. Thanks, IT.
It was chugging while I was trying to set up while you were doing it. Screwed them, restarted. They said, "Oh, by the way, you have a massive update."
Man. What if I want to exit this sketch with the sketch? What do I do? Make it quick, so I'm not having to go all the way up and touch the corner. It's the D key. Brings it right down to your mouse. It's like a breadcrumb. Have you all messed with breadcrumbs much? They come up.
Besides the automatic, like a straight one.
Okay. Well, breadcrumbs are an option you can cut on to where it pops up in assemblies. We'll go into some of that in the parts and in assemblies. So yes, it is.
You can show them the tip that I showed on Monday with breadcrumbs while you're talking about it.
Yes, I can.
Where you automatically.
So we've got to, let's go back. All right. Line to arc, we got center line dimensions of dynamic mirrors. Next. I'm a big fan of the power trim tool. I'm assuming everybody uses that instead of a regular trim to closest. So we'll go back in. I shouldn't have closed it out. I kind of got ahead of myself, but yeah, whatever. Let's draw some lines in here. Have fun with it. All right. Power trim. I don't have this one set up. Oh, before I forget, thanks to HP, they gave us these laptops. These are completely new installs of SolidWorks for us, so I don't have any of my customization set up on it. But power trim, all you got to do is draw the line. But what happens if I want to go back? And I accidentally trimmed that one. Or if I cut this one and I want to go back, you just go back over the. What'd you say?
It's like in memory.
Oh, yeah. Well, anything you want to untrim that you've trimmed, you just go back over the little red line, the little red square, and it brings it back. There's a little power trim tip. I'm a big, also, did you know you can power extend? You do shift and power trim. You got power extend and power trim all on the thing, all in the same command. I love the shift key. If you have a chance to look through your commands, the shift key is like the superhero key. It does all kinds of options and different things. Dimensioning, it'll help you snap to ends of drawing stuff. We'll dive into that here in a minute. It'll help you, go in from, I'll tell you what, we'll just show it right now. We'll throw a dimension in. What do you think is natively going to happen? going to go center line to center line of the circle. And then I have to go and up, you know, that's nice and all, but what if I want to show the full extent of the circle here? How would you go? Yes. Again, shift is like the superhero key. Easy. I actually didn't know that until like last year. I didn't know if that I really haven't played around with that. I always was the one that clicked the dimension, go over here to leaders, go to max, and then take the time to do that. And you know, that just takes a lot of time. So let's dock this to the top. Now, while we're in this sketch here, I want to show a nice thing that Adam was showcasing earlier. This item across the bottom, your status bar, will display, if you can see that. I'm not sure if you can see it past my note. My noggin's in the way, isn't it? No. It just says your sketch is over to find it. You click on it, it automatically deploys your sketchXpert. Hit your diagnose, and it'll come up with solutions to help you solve your sketch problem. It'll give you an array of solutions. Last, was it 2 days ago, Adam had one that had 28 solutions to solve a sketch, whether it's deleting a constraint or deleting a dimension. But this one says, okay, my distance 8 mate is causing the error. I can delete that one, or I can go over here and find distance number 1, and I want to get rid of that one. So I can say accept. It says now the sketch can find a valid solution. It goes in there and fixes it for you. So if you're doing something that's really complicated in your sketching, doing lots of curves, lots of different parts, and then suddenly you have an error, you just find your sketchXpert, and it'll help you out. Now, there's also the option to where you can actually turn on your sketchXpert for every time. Say sketch. Was it in the general? There's sketch options. You can have it to automatically come out with your sketchXpert. Where's it at on this one?
That's actually in sketchXpert itself. So
oh, that's right.
Sketch,
that's it. So let's do it. Look, see, I'm still learning, and this is part of the reason why I love doing this kind of stuff. It gives me a chance to learn with everyone. Let's break this thing here. There we go. So we'll dive back into that. Golly, dude, this stupid dock won't stay smug. We'll bring the sketchXpert up. You could say, I can always have this open every time you exit a sketch, or with the error. I know corporately our company does not have that option because we are passing drawings and passing models back and forth. And sometimes other users find that distracting, so they just cut it off. I love this option. I love this little status bar down here because it helps you work through everything. All right, let's go back to our PowerPoint. So we already kind of showed the S key, a really big power user move. Instead of actually using the S key command, the S key on your keyboard, is assigning it to your mouse gestures. So you don't even have to touch the keyboard to pull up the command. So we're not going to worry about that. Anybody know how to customize their S key flyout toolbar? Has everybody done that? Played around with it? Okay, good. We won't dive into that then.
Anybody not?
Anybody not? Okay. So it just allows us to do a quick search. Now I didn't know this until I was talking to a VAR, but when you hit the S key in the older versions of the software, it already pulled up this command search. It just dragged your cursor to the top automatically rather than pulling it up. Nobody used it. So I guess the R&D, the product designers there said, we're just going to stick it right in front of their face. Maybe they'll use it. So now it's quite useful of an option. So D key, we've already kind of touched on that a little bit with our Uh-oh. What is my SolidWorks connected doing? Did I break it? I think it did. There it goes. We already touched on the D key a little bit in sketching, but it also does things as well inside of your, come on now, I want to close it out. Don't save. There we go. The D key also will do things inside of sketches or inside of parts as well. So if you're in here modifying a part and you want to work on a piece or work on a feature, pull the D key up. It'll help you exit it out. I should select out of that. It's trying to. There you go. It'll pull and let you close and exit the sketch, cancel it, or actually say okay and accept everything. It kind of gives you all your commands at your hands rather than having to drag the hand up to the screen. Now it's not very far. If you notice, you're not really moving your hand a lot, but it gives extra mouse miles. It shrinks it down to keep more ergonomic, keep your hands in place, and keeps you from having those pesky carpal tunnel problems if you've been doing this for a while. So now that we're in this part here, we're going to kind of go over some filleting features and chamfer features. So I'm assuming everybody uses the fillet command. I don't know anybody who doesn't, who just does the cuts or sweep cuts anymore. I've thankfully talked to a lot of people, at least the company I work with, and to stop doing that. But we're going to come in, we're going to take some of these old sketches out. As you can see, this part that I've downloaded is Italian. I'm able to figure out what they were simply for the shape. But did you know that you can convert these and have them translated inside your part?
Stay tuned for tomorrow's presentation.
Yeah. Dang it. I'll just show it now. Okay, I won't. All right. But we'll talk, we'll dive into that a little bit tomorrow. So we'll go into our fillet command. And I want to throw a fillet on this edge. Let's do this instead. Where'd that? Yeah, let's do a fillet on that edge. See if I actually can tag it and get the whole thing. Nope. Yeah, let's try one. I want to get the whole edge, but it's not doing it for me real quick here. Full preview. All right. Did you know that while you're in the fillet itself and you have the command here and you say, your machine shop says, I don't want to run a ball end mill, you can convert that to a chamfer without having to actually delete the command or delete the feature and redo it. SolidWorks has put a convert to chamfer command. I believe it came out in 2021. I'm not sure. It's been there for a year or two. The only problem is it still says fillet, but the shape is right, which is, that could be confusing. But one of my modeling best practices that I tell people is name your features anyway. So if we have this edge here, we could just stamp corner or whatever, and you can just change the shape that way.
Or it doesn't force you to put it when you create a feature, it automatically it selects the name, so you can renew it.
Yes, it is a nice feature. I don't name every feature because some of them are pretty clear. Like this is a number 8 clearance hole, but for the large defining features of things, I tend to go through and name them so that.
Making an assumption if that's a 1/4 inch fillet, it's making a 45.
Yes.
Quarter.
Yes. It defaults to the whatever you have it set as your default.
So once you change it to a chamfer, does that act like a chamfer command where you can change the offset?
Yes. So if I come back in here, convert it, now I can come in here and change your chamfer edge. let's do this. We'll pull it back. Let's see, now it's got your actual chamfer settings inside. So you can come in here and change if you want to do symmetric or if you want to do an asymmetric dimension with different offsets and whatnot. Yes, obviously. I mean, sorry. The symmetric one would be your automatic 45 in there as well. But there's also this neat little feature over here that allows you to kind of pick. So if you can go back over to the fillet and now it's back as a fillet. You can, convert it just up here on the top as well. Did you know you could throw every one of your fillets into one option, depending into one feature, and have it multiple different radiuses? So we'll go in here and we'll throw some different size fillets in, just to showcase for everyone. We'll do 3 for now. So this nice option down here, multi-radius fillet, pulls up a little radial menu, or a little menu that's attached to each edge. We'll drag them into an area that's easier to see. And it allows you to pull in whatever size you want on each one of the edges. So we'll do this one as a half. And I've got everything at the bottom as a fillet. And I love doing the fillets at the very bottom of my feature tree. Fillets and chamfers usually at the very bottom of the feature tree. It helps us when we do a part that's going to be stuck 5-6 assemblies deep in a major big assembly to simplify the part. I can come in there, create a configuration called simplified, and suppress the features that aren't needed in the larger assemblies. So a little quick tip on that. Just putting your fillets at the bottom of the tree allows you to work a little bit faster because it gives you a little bit more speed boost performance. So we'll kind of show you that real quick. Performance evaluation button should be your best friend if you're having problems. Please, highly recommended that you use them. So now we have an overall live snapshot of what's causing your problems if you decipher the information, how much time is in there. So we'll go ahead and let's pull that back up so we can kind of get a snapshot. This is 0.49 seconds to rebuild. All you got to do, simplify. This thing's going to go in, obviously, into that engine that I'm working on. It dropped it down a little bit, not as much as I'd like, but I imagine it's because it's pretty complicated in the bottom as well. So I would come back through and simplify it some more by cutting out some other things. All right, patterns. Patterns are my favorite feature inside of SolidWorks. So we'll go ahead and pop open my patterns. Again, I appreciate HP allowing us to use these machines. I just haven't had my stuff set up. So how many people has actually gone through and explored every option of a pattern before they've used it? If you just use the standard pattern that just comes out, right? There's little options, little things here and there that we can use to make our lives a little easier. And one of them is the varied sketch command. Has anybody ever actually seen the radial button vary sketch in a pattern? Okay, so we will go back and back this up to our linear pattern here. Notice we have a linear pattern of a curved slot. So we're going to back that up into the curved slot so we can kind of showcase how I modeled it so we can see. So inside this part, we've got a fully defined sketch. The only thing, though, that I've dimensioned is the width of the slot and the length from the center. If you've noticed, there's a center line or a construction line that is set all the way to the top corners at the area that I want this slot to go. So this slot will be allowed to follow that construction line. So we'll use the D key to get out of that command. Jump into our linear pattern here. And we'll turn that off for now. But typical linear pattern behavior, right? It just takes the same shape and just moves it over and over again. If the sketch is set up correctly, this very sketch option will show up, will be ungrayed. And it allows you to have that sketch morph as it expands out. So the farther we go, the more instances I go, the bigger the slot will be. So instead of having one sketch with all these in it that you have to go back through and modify later, you can have one cut. You got your pattern, which we can go back now, circular pattern it around, finish off some cuts here, put some holes in it. And then, customers asked me to put some grading on the top, right? We would use this varied sketch option again to do that. So I'm going to create a no-go zone, but at this time, I'm going to use a surface. Inside that surface, we'll go into the sketch here kind of to show you how it's built. I use a fit spline, so it's one solid option. So it's one solid line. And I've dimensioned, so it's fully defined, and it gives me some things to change. So if I wanted to change the length of one of these, I can move it. But this is the no-go zone here. I don't want those grading slots inside that area. So I've set that up. And the customer says, I don't care how many slots are in there. I just need to put as many in there as possible. We're going to come in. We're going to sketch out our cutout. And we'll rotate it around here so you can see it. And I did a very similar construction technique on that slot. I dimensioned the radius of the slot and the width, or the distance from the end of the plate. That's all that really matters to me. I don't want it to go too close to the edge. Well, I don't care about the height. So I've got it set tangent to the no-go zone surface and tangent to just a straight construction line across the bottom. Good thing about surfaces is they carry no mass, they carry nothing in the model. So when I'm done with this, I can come back in, right click, hide it. It's no longer there. It doesn't really matter. The manufacturing company or whoever's making this will never see it. We'll go into our linear sketch here and we will turn off the very sketch. You see, it kind of behaves the way you think. It goes across, but notice that it's interfering with my two cutouts for the hoses and the cutout for the pressure switch. So we're going to cut on our varied sketch command because we've set that slot to follow that surface, and it allows it to do all the cutouts at one time. Along with that, I could care less how many slots are on there. I just want it to go to the end. So I have I've set my up to reference to the end of my part, and I know the minimum distance I want is 1/4 inch. And the customer says they need a lot of slots. So I can come in here and I can just keep, not that close. I can keep shrinking them down, and it doesn't matter. It'll always fit in between those areas, and it'll always fit that section. It'll always go there. So let's say the customer says, I don't like how close that is to this surface. I can come in here, change my dimension, give me a little bit of space. We'll just 2 point. Bring that a sketch over. And now it parametrically updates so that grading will always stay on that out of that area. So has anybody actually seen that varied sketch command and wondered what it is? It's probably always grayed out, right? It's because we're always taught to define the model all the way, but not constrain it in a way that it can allow that option. Like a sketch? I could. I was just trying to showcase a different method. Yes. Yes. Yeah. With the fit spline or a spline option, it's just got to be one solid line. It can't be a segment with a fillet or a radius tangent to it. It's actually got to be one solid line. One solid line, like a polyline or a spline. Yes.
I mean, like the surface, the kind of answer, the question of why the surface? Why the surface is for clearance not shown there, but for what's above or below.
Mhm.
That you're working in this 3D space, but that part you're working on, you have no reference to what's around it.
Yes.
So that surface says, oh,
This is my top. This is,
gauges, I have
yeah.
pulleys or whatever in that vicinity.
Yes.
How do I keep all this clear. That's why I'm using that surface.
Yes. I love using surfaces in a way that's, everybody uses surfaces to model things like this, but you can use surfaces to cut solids. You can use surfaces to set your boundaries, like that's what you're doing, or using them just to set boundaries on your other sketches. Yeah, doesn't add. It's basically just another, like a reference plane almost that you could be using. That's just pliable at that point. Yeah. What were you? Yeah. Yeah. Then in the surface, and you can hide it later, so you're not having to worry about. Yes, you can name it as a keep out zone. Keep out zone A.
Color it red.
Color it red. Yeah.
I was gonna say basically the same thing Brad did. He kind of read my mind there. It's no mask, doesn't add anything to your model.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, surfaces are more than that, right? But if you want to use them as reference geometry, they're great because you can create surfaces. If you can't get a plane where you want it and on the angle you want it,
Yeah.
and how you want it, use a surface.
Yeah.
Use a sketch line and then extrude it as a surface.
Yes. It's a great tool that if you're not used to doing surface modeling, it can be kind of scary to do. In fact, I failed the surface modeling exam twice before I barely passed it to get my CSWE. It's a lot harder of a concept for me to think I'm going to start on the outside of the shape and then solid it later versus the other way around where we extrude a solid and then cut parts out. So yeah, this is another option just to use sketches using surfaces. So that was a good question. Along with that, has anybody ever played with the instances to vary or instances to skip option on the bottom? So I don't know if you've seen these or not, because sometimes they're far enough down into the feature tree, and a lot of people don't take a look at them. Yeah, instances to skip's a great one. So I can just click the one I don't want. I don't have to go back through and fill it back in manually. I have seen some users go back through and actually sketch over a cut, extrude it to fit multiple times. And, that's just because they just didn't know. It's just an unknown for them. What about instances to vary? You seen that one? Anybody seen instances to vary? Okay, we'll open up another one. This is kind of off the script. Oh no, gone off script. All right, camshaft. We all know camshafts keep our engine running. Do you know you can make it in one pattern and have every lobe offset at different angles and different spacing with one pattern? It allows you to one area to set up. So we got our linear pattern. Here's our default. It's got we have an instances to vary option here, and an instances modified instances down here that's already been selected. But when you come down to your instances to vary, you can come in here and actually select a sketch option inside of your sketch. So I have selected my value of 90 degrees here. And when that is on, and with that sketch that's on there, that dimension that's allowed, I can come in and click any instance of this camshaft, edit my modified instance and say, I want this to be 50 degrees. And instead of the spacing, which was default 1 1/4, I have this one set at 8 1/4 right now. I can go to 8.75. And it will increment each instance down through it. You can actually select and move each individual pattern piece, rotate it around wherever you want, or extend a section. It just gives you an option to, just use one pattern to accomplish something that you would like to do. And I wish I could find I haven't really got a chance to use the vary option, at least the varied pattern option like this, specifically much. Wish I could find more uses to it, at least in the company I work for. We don't, I do a lot of sheet metal modeling, so this option doesn't come into play much for me, but it's fun to try. It's fun to try to print things and have things and, just have fun with it. All right, let's do a little bit of live modeling here. Actually, no, let's go. Where did it go? Let's pull my wheel back up here. All right. So we're building a motorcycle wheel. And I have been asked by our customer to put in these nice contrast cuts in. So we'll just kind of back this up here. So as with anything, I go into a regular extrude cut. I come from the top plane down to the thickness that the customer has requested, added some fillets in, created my circular pattern. But inside of the circular pattern here, I want to actually model it all the way. But what do we see here that comes up? Have you ever done that? Try to pattern something and it says it won't work, just won't work. Well, if that happens, don't get frustrated. Come down and select your geometry pattern option. Instead of physically cutting the pattern cutting the part over and over again, all it does is copy the faces and rotate the faces around wherever you have. Just by cutting that option on, it actually allowed me to do that and accomplish what I'd liked. It also is a time saver. So if you have something that has a bunch of holes that are patterned and punched out on a plate, and you have it set as a regular feature, it's actually copying that feature over and over and over again, repeated. So if you got 50 holes in your pattern, it's copying that cutout 50 times. Click the geometry pattern, it just moves the faces. It's not actually making that feature cut every time. So it will easier for the software to calculate, speeds you up a little bit because. So it's a little, I'd say, unknown tool, at least the way it calculates. I had at the time, we were building big complicated models and crashing the software and we couldn't figure out why. And I'm creating diamond plate to put in a model and patterning all the tread. Terrible mistake. In my Learn From Me presentation, I showcased some things like, I want to model this thing so it looks accurate and then build it into a 10,000 part assembly. And then I've got screws that have threads cut in them and all the round chamfers. It looks real pretty when you render it, but you can't accomplish anything with it. But, had I thought about the geometry pattern option, I might have been able to make some of that work without having to go defeature the thing all the way. Conveyor chain?
All our models, there'll be 2 sets of conveyors in them.
Uh-huh.
And the chain.
Have you thought about doing a simplified configuration of one?
Yes, in the most simplified I can get is actually making the chain instead of looking like a dog bone, it looks like a square.
Okay.
Because even if you have basically a slot shape,
Yeah.
you're still getting all those graphic triangles.
Yep.
when you fill it.
Yeah.
So,
It's still, it's larger at that point, but yeah, the square would, you know, if it's just for speeding up your stuff, you can go back and create it as a configuration and then come back and say, okay, I want to show the customer, unsimplify, drop the actual big one in and do it that way. Or you can do large design review. If you're having a problem with, you want to show it around, do your large design review open and then only resolve the things that aren't that chain. Yes. SpeedPack is just a picture. Simplified actually has a mass and you can't click on anything in a SpeedPack. It's just like a ghost image. SpeedPacks work well for some people. Our company does not do it because of our PLM software. It doesn't play nice with SpeedPacks, but they work really well in some circumstances. Good question. All right. All right. So, does anybody ever just accidentally laid their hand on their keyboard and kind of just, oops, my part's gone? Ever done that? Well, it's because you probably laid your fingers on the tab key on accident, or your alt, it's your tab key, and just dragging your mouse over the tab key will hide anything you have your mouse over. And so if you've got multiple layers of parts, it'll top layer first, and so on and so forth, using the tab key. Shift tab does the reverse. Bring it back. Now, one thing I learned was it 2 weeks ago, is that if you hit Control Shift Tab, everything that you've hidden comes back up as a ghost image and allows you to pick the things you want to show. So you can still continue to do the option. It's very similar to the isolate command. But it allows you to, come on now, that wasn't what I wanted. Did I close? There it is. It's very similar to the isolate command. You can hide and show things really quickly and then create your display states. So if you're doing assembly views and whatnot for step-by-step, you can go that route, hide a section or two and then unhide each thing you need. Anybody seen that Control Shift Tab before? Because I didn't until like 2 weeks ago. Yeah. It's written down. All right. I like when things get written down. That just means I'm doing something decent. Somebody must be paying attention. Yeah, so just Control Shift Tab. It's a lot of buttons to push, or you can set it up as a hotkey on like a 3D Space Mouse, which we're giving away one apparently tonight. In the option, it'll allow you to set, buttons on the actual mouse, individual buttons on it. So you can set that Control Shift Tab as a button and hold it down while you're moving things around. Kind of a little bit of an extra tip there. Put back in. So inside, let's bump that up to the top again. So inside of your status bar, come on now, Control Shift Tab, there you go. Did you know you can do measurements through your status bar? It's some people say click measure, I say quick measure. It's called quick measure, right? Quick measure. I say click measure because you just click on it and it'll give you your dimensions, the distance that you need, everything at the bottom without actually having to use your measure command. Just an extra little tip there for you. So copy parts. We all know we can come in here, control, grab and drag whatever parts we have in. But what happens when we start dragging parts in and they start hiding behind things? Well, you can find that part that you need to move. Let's just say if I need to move this one here in your assembly. Come on, I hate this stupid dock. All right. You can come in and actually move it using the triad with your move component. It could be anywhere inside of the part. You can move it with the triad, and it can be hidden because I'm sure we've all done this. Drop a part into an assembly and it's hidden behind a part or inside a part. You know, just use your triad without, you just do your move component and use your triad and drag it wherever you need to so it's usable before you start mating. Just a little bit faster.
Anybody use that triad in? Anybody get aggravated with that triad sometimes being annoyed?
It's your instant 3D.
3D, yeah. And add it to that.
Huh? Yes, because you can, I'm going to drag it, but instead you rotate it. And then, mad.
Is that good?
Yes.
Yeah, it was added to your instant 3D.
Yes. It's frustrating, but it also is a very nice tool. So a lot of the times, you know, I'd have a user that says, I just hate that thing. Get it out of the way. Well, just click your instant 3D and turn it off. So we move our hidden parts kind of thing. All right. So what if I want to come in and add a part to an assembly? Well, we can come in here and do our sweet edit component. Yeah, it's our standard insert. We can also come in here and grab and drag directly out of the R command. So if you've got multiple parts open, or you've had a part open that you want to throw into an assembly, you can do that as well. And I believe in 2023, it allows you to throw assemblies into parts. So if you're using an assembly as like an envelope, or if you're designing a part that's got to fit into an area, you can actually drag that assembly into it, set it as, you know, an envelope or extrude from BOM, and then work inside of that. So it gives you a new toy to play with if you want to do that. I don't know if anybody will actually use it, but it seems nifty. I've never tried it, so I'm not sure how it would actually behave when you go to, say, if you're using your SolidWorks PDM. I'm not sure how it would behave with an assembly inside of a part file. It's something I haven't tested yet. But yeah, you just come in and drag whatever you want inside. You just drag directly from the R key window.
Does that work for the control tab?
I don't know. Let's try it. Never hurts to try things. So if I did your control tab, no. Enhancement request, Dan. Huh? Oh, dang. It's okay. That was a good question. That's always like trying. That stumped me. So I like that. Yeah, control tab, we already know that one. We've showed that around. Assembly visualization. I love this. This is one of the power tips that I use all the time with new users. Is they've got an assembly that's just dragging them down. They can't figure out what's going on. It's like, well, what does your assembly visualization tool say? Anyway, what? Come in here and click this assembly visualization tool, and it's going to create all kinds of pretty colors for you. Now I'm colorblind, so a lot of these I changed to other colors so that I can tell which is which. But it allows us to kind of inspect the file and all the parts in that file and see what's causing the problem. We see we've got the mass, we got the quantity, you know, but I don't really want a lot of that. So I've already got the graphics triangles pulled up. I want to add a column and I want to change. Let's see. I don't want that. Delete current. Delete. I want to add a column, and well, they've changed it on me in 20. Let's do edit column. I said edit. Oh well. More. That's what I wanted. So I want face count, and I want SolidWorks rebuild time. So what that does is allows us to see in live in your assembly here, and you could sort it obviously by up and down. Figure out which one's causing your rebuild time problems. Yeah, there's also an option for SolidWorks save as well. So if you're having a super long save times on a part, you can come in here and say, okay, we know that this cap here is causing our problem. It's just the end piece with all the swoops and everything. This is the problem child. So now I come in here and simplify it later. Put it in the assembly. While it might not look as pretty for a customer to look at, it just makes life a lot easier for us. So use the assembly visualization tool and your performance evaluation tools. That's a
Visualization tool.
Mhm.
When it says quantity two, is that giving you a rebuild time and save time for the quantity of?
no, that's for each one.
For each one.
Yes. So it's having to rebuild each of those things 7 seconds. So and that's so that compounds, obviously. You got a part that's set, you got your display, your image quality set to 100% or 99% on accident. You download it from a vendor and they send you this super nice swoopy part, chrome. What'd you say?
Chrome.
Yes, it looks so nice and pretty, and then you dump it in a bottle and it just blows it up. So it gives you an idea of just what's causing your problem. So I'm coming up on the end of my time, but we'll just kind of run through some other ones here. We'll go into, I don't need to do mouse gestures, but we'll go into some drawings here real quick. Like I said before, I love the shift key. Shift key allows us to do things like stack and unstack balloons in prints. So I can come in here and stack and unstack the balloons, but it also allows me to organize those balloons in whatever order I would want over them. We've already covered the dimensions with the shift key, so we'll kind of skip over that. And let's see, what else do I have on this one? Try not to go over my time here. All right, SolidWorks RX. Please tell me go into that all the time. Use that all the time. If you're a CAD manager or you're an IT guy, this right here will help you immensely when diagnosing computer problems or file problems, because you can do a problem capture while your user is running through a problem. It'll record the screen, it records all the commands as a text file, and then you can email it to tech support, your VAR or SolidWorks tech support. So please use this, as 99% of the problems I think would be fixed faster when they get this option. A lot of our users that don't even know that this is out there. And well, I was rebuilding a part and doing XYZ. I'm like, well, I don't know what you're doing. Please screen capture this and show it what we're doing. Yes. Oh yeah. 14 days?
No, I've got one guy that.
I think the longest I've seen is like around 90 days. And then when I asked him, I was like, have you shut down SolidWorks in the last 90 days? No, why not? Well, I'm working on things. There's your problem. There's your problem.
Yeah.
Well, you're lying. No, we've got users that'll keep 50 models open all the time because they just keep jumping back and forth, and then suddenly their machine's locked up and they can't figure it out. This is amazing. I love this. But yeah, you're right. It helps you kind of do it. So come on So at the end of all of each of our presentations, we like to do like a call to action and kind of encourage you just to try the tips and tricks. Take your time, try one or two of them at a time. It might slow you down initially, something like using a 3D mouse, like the space mouse. It might slow you down a tad the first time you use it, but over time you get used to it and it'll actually speed you up and you'll find yourself. I'll be honest, a lot of the tips and tricks I just showed here, I completely forget about half the time, and I'm doing things like moving the mouse up, click the exit sketch, and I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And then I'll sit down and force myself to slow down and build that habit. So we got a little bit of time. Any questions, comments, disagreements, heckling? Yes.
Like say you have a very heavy model at the top level or something. What are the things that you typically look at after like the RS?
Okay, so for the live stream, the question was, what are my favorite performance tips? So the first thing I do is do the assembly visualization, find the problem children, the top 3 hitters. And if it's things I can go into and simplify, if I go into those parts and say, I don't need to see every cut or every fillet of that part, I'll go through and simplify those first. Then I go through and check your image quality on your machine. Default, I'm not sure whatever your company sets it up. Ours is at 10% natively. So when you open a new file, it's at 10% drawing quality or image quality, because that right there is where it breaks and tessellates. I guess it's tessellates the faces into those graphics triangles. The higher the image quality, the more graphics triangles it takes to smooth the parts out. And you'll notice that in your performance, your assembly visualization tool. You'll see that this one's got a lot of graphics triangles in it. You can open that part up and go and drop your image quality down to 10 or 15%, and then you can try that first and then go through and defeature as needed as a simplification. And then sometimes models are just large and clunky. The first thing I do when I open a model from somebody else is I will open it large design review. It's just a graphics only. There's no features. It's just the visual, and that way I can see, okay, here's how it works, and then go through and unsuppress the parts I need as I go, just to view them, and then try to figure it out as well.
One of the big performance hitters would be mates.
Yes.
Make sure you check your mates. Make sure you're not creating circular mates. Making sure you don't have a ton of mates. Break things into sub-assemblies.
Yeah, mates. SolidWorks has a soft limit on mates in an assembly. It's 300. So if you have 300 mates or 500 mates in an assembly, you'll notice a performance impact. SolidWorks calculates. We'll pull up an assembly here, so you can see it. SolidWorks calculates a part or an assembly from the top down. So as you're building your parts, it's actually calculating it as you open it. Now, let's say you mate something, or you pattern or you mirror a component, and then you mate something to it. Well, because mates are in front of the mirrors, it has to go back to the mate folder and resolve those mates. It actually creates a circular reference in the file calculation. So that could also be slowing you down as well. So stop mating to pattern parts. Yeah. That's a bad habit of mine too. Like I'll mirror something over and I go, oh, I need to attach something to it. Now, sometimes you have to get the spacing correct. Or in that instance, I'll do something like mate the planes. So set distances and things to get to where I need to be.
Those kind of go off with the performance evaluation at the assembly level.
Let's look. So performance evaluation for the assembly gives you the graphics triangles and what you need to know there. We can go to our assembly visualization. We'll drag it out so you can see everything. I believe we can find, let's do this. Let's add a column here and see. Why not? Let's explore and see what we have here.
Well, like, you look at that, Joe, that was good stuff. His first question to people, this goes back to what you were saying a minute ago. When is the last time you restarted your computer? Not when you shut it down, but when you restarted.
Yeah. I do not see a, okay, I see a fully mated.
That's another thing, fully made everything.
Yes.
Leave stuff under defined.
It just gives you a yes or a no if it's fully mated. Underdefined parts actually cause the software to think as you're looking at it. It's saying, okay, this part might move, so I don't need to fully display it now. Or I need to make sure that it's ready to move and anything that's attached to it. So if you've got a sketch that's flexible or whatever, it'll actually cause it to think faster or think slower because it's having to try to predict what you're doing.
Freeze bars can help
Yes.
to keep things from rebuilding in the background that don't need to.
If you use the freeze bar. Freeze bar? You do not. Do you know what the freeze bar is? Okay. So inside of the settings here, it really just depends on if your company will allow it. Some people do not have this option on. Ours does not because our IT department didn't think, or our engineering system department didn't think it was a benefit for everyone. But make sure your enable freeze bar option is on inside the settings. And then you can come up to the top. Come on now. Let's see. Will allow me to freeze. Let's see.
It's on a part basis, not a single.
Oh, okay. Well, my bad. It's on parts only. But notice the little line that's right here up top. You come in and drag your freeze bar down. What it's doing is it's telling SolidWorks you don't want it to rebuild those 3 options there. That it's locked in, nobody's going to change it ever. Don't worry about trying to rebuild it all. So if you have a part that's really complicated, you know that the bottom 3 or 4 parts are what's being modified. You can drag your freeze bar down to wherever you need to. Yes.
So.
Mhm.
What happens when you say bar on the master model and import that derivative item? Does that ever give you problems in terms of rebuilding?
I don't, if you were to import, let's say if you were like exporting it as a step and re-importing it somewhere else, I don't think the freeze bar will take over to that. I don't think that, I think that's only to the native software. It won't go to the step.
And with configuration, if you use configurations in your assemblies, there's ways to keep those other configurations from rebuilding as well.
Yes. Those. Yep.
Sometimes when you go to say something or you do things, it'll rebuild all your configurations.
Yes. Control B instead of Control Q. If you want to rebuild a large assembly or rebuild a section of a large assembly that you've been working on, Control B only rebuilds the functions that you have modified. Or only the features or the sketches you've modified. That's the only thing it will rebuild. Control Q rebuilds the thing from the top down. So if you've got 10.
All right, so I wanted to go ahead and just start off real quick. I know Brad touched on it just a little bit, but I always like to start off by thanking our sponsors, Altech, of course, for allowing Brad and I to get out and get on our motorcycles and come to these different places and present, whether it be at an Altech facility or in Albany, New York, or in Waltham, all these different places that we presented at. Altech's helped make that possible. They gave us the time to be able to ride those motorcycles and be here in front of you guys today. Also want to thank the SolidWorks User Group Network, Dan specifically, for allowing us to get out here and helping sponsor this, because if it wasn't for the SolidWorks User Group Network, this wouldn't be possible at all. There wouldn't even be a user group here at all for us to be able to join and get together, right? So definitely want to thank them. HP has contributed to this ride and sponsored us in a great way, especially for the finale in Waltham. If you guys can make it to Waltham tomorrow, that's going to be our finale stop, where we're going to have a lot of cool stuff. We're going to have carnival type festival before, with lots of food and games and prizes there. We're also going to be first time Brad and I have ever presented together in a presentation together by telling a story and not just using a PowerPoint. And then Jason Poole from Orange County Choppers, who used to be on the Orange County Chopper Show, is going to be there to present after us. So it's going to be a really cool event. We want to thank 3D Connection. As Brad said, we Space Mouse. Gary has a Space Mouse over here to give out due to them. Want to thank our VARs that have put in and helped out a lot. They've got gift cards and swag and different things from Trimec and Go Engineer, as well as DriveWorks. DriveWorks has contributed a lot, not only this year, but last year. So this is their second year running, sponsoring us too. So I definitely want to reach out and say thank you to those sponsors. Okay. So my presentation is a little bit different. I've changed a lot of things up this year. As you guys know, we presented at 6 locations last year. Brad gave 6 brand new presentations. I gave 6 brand new presentations last year for a total of 12. This year it's 5 locations, 5 from me, 5 from Brad. They are brand new presentations, and everything that I've talked about has not been repeated at all. And so we come through these different presentations and try and change things up and do a little different. For example, did a couple normal style presentations the first couple of days, but then yesterday we did Kahoot, like Brad was saying. It was a fun little game that we did and went through a lot of questions. It lasted about an hour. I had to actually cut off my ending and not be able to do a call to action just because I was trying to wrap up so Brad could get in there and get started. And tonight I want to have this a little bit more of an open forum, right? I want to talk about how I roll. Are my peripheral devices for you. So this is the kind of stuff that I use on my daily work, my daily job, and the different tools that I use. And I'll go in and talk a little bit about the stuff I use a little bit more in depth as well. Some pretty cool, fun stuff, some things that I've found and I've investigated to find work very well too. Not just for what their intended tasks are, but other things that we can do in SolidWorks. So who am I? My name's Adam Ebernickel. I'm a senior designer, product engineering department of Altec Industries. I think Brad may have alluded to what we do is bucket trucks, digger derricks, wood chippers, tree care, backyard diggers. I mean, just a lot of cool different stuff, right? Big boy toys, right? That we call them, out on the road and stuff. Also adjunct at an applied engineering department in Malin Community College. I do about 3 classes a semester there. Just really enjoy doing that, whether it be SolidWorks or industrial safety and many other classes that I do there. Leader of the Western North Carolina Asheville SWUG. So I've been doing that for several years as well. And through that tenure, I was asked about 4 years ago to be the committee member on the SolidWorks user group network of the whole Southeast region. So that's Tennessee, Mississippi, down to the Virgin Islands. Last year, we started bringing on Altec corporate specific SWUG groups. If you guys think that might work for you, talk to Dan. He can help you out with that. But we brought 6 on last year for 6 different locations. We brought 2 more on this year, looking at maybe 1 or 2 more this year and just continue to grow that. So that's kind of underneath my stewardship in the committee as well. SolidWorks champion, just like Brad mentioned there, and that's just a lot of fun. That's a lot of giving back and being able to investigate new tools. And if you're active and into that thing and you want to work with STEM or you want to help maybe the magic wheelchair or anything of that nature, it's a great program to be a part of. And like I said, you do get some good tools that Matt Clegg has really fleshed out for you. So reach out to Matt Clegg or Google it, right? In all that, I have achieved my SolidWorks certified SolidWorks expert certification. It took a little while to get it done, but I got it done a few years ago. I don't know. Can't remember now. However, I encourage everybody to get their certification, even if it's just CSWA, CSWP, get that certification. I know with the Champions program, you have to be at least a CSWP in the Champions program to be able to apply for that and get into it. But yeah, the certification is awesome. I did a presentation on that, I think Tuesday. I can do that again if anybody needs it, but I think for myself, I'm going to start moving into maybe the platform certifications. I think that's my next direction, is trying to start challenging myself there. And I think that's really what it does. It just challenges you to be better. Some people pigeonhole themselves into only what they do on a daily basis and don't look at the broader topics. I think when you look at the broader topics, it's no different than being in a college career path that they say, yeah, you might be doing engineering, but you need to go take an art class or you need to go take a theater class, right? And why did they do that? To make you a well-rounded student, right? And I think the certifications really help you do that too. So what are some key takeaways for this presentation? Well, explore my setup and my hardware, right? Devices that can improve efficiency and incorporating those devices and its software. So this is my setup. This is what I look at every day. I'm ADHD, right? I got to go squirrel every now and again, but I think this actually keeps my sanity focused because it blocks everything else out in the world and says I'm focusing here. So yeah, I've got SolidWorks live or YouTube, SolidWorks YouTube up there at the top, and that kind of plays in the background sometimes, especially when Sean O'Neill's out there talking, or you get Dan Wagner on there sometimes talking about IronSWUG coming up or whatever the case may be. So that's pretty cool. And so there's many different devices and stuff on there that you see, and I'm gonna go through some of those, but not just mine. I'm gonna talk about some other ones that I've seen other people use and maybe some pros and cons. And as we go through the different topics, maybe tell me what you use and why you use it. Okay? It is, you're right. Yeah. I've actually been to the space station and back. All right, so Logitech K350. This is the one I use. Got it mainly because it was fairly inexpensive, but it's very ergonomic. It kind of rolls into my palms. When I do use the keyboard, and you'll see why I say when I do use the keyboard here in a little bit, because my thing when I work is very ergonomic. My hands are here and I reduce my mouse miles. You'll see that here in a minute too. But that's basically my work right here. And then when I use the keyboard for typing an email, I made a joke last night about typing an email to Dan and him not reading it. But so, yeah, so this is the one I use. There are many other ones out there. This is the RAZR turret. A lot of people like these mechanical gaming keyboards. I think Brad uses a mechanical keyboard. Yeah, extra clicky. If you're in the office, they drive your neighbor nuts, right? Everybody's like, what's he beating on over? Yeah, but it does have good tactile feedback, right? You've clicked it, you've done it. The cool thing about this one, it's a little pricey. Do what?
Joe uses that one.
Joe uses this one? Cool. Thank you, Joe. So the cool thing about this one, if Joe has any extra features that he knows about since he uses it, let us know in the chat. But the cool thing about this one is it does have the RGB lights behind it. You can change it, make it wave. But I think the reason I spotlighted this one is, what if you're sitting back and you're leaning back in your chair like I like to do sometimes, and maybe you just need that keyboard here, but you can't quite reach your mouse. It's got the little mouse drawer that pulls out for you to actually put your mouse on. So pretty neat. The RAZR Huntsman Elite. This one runs about $80, so it's a little cheaper than the other one's got a volume knob on it and stuff. And I really like those volume knobs and different hotkeys that you can have and program. I actually use the Logitech software in a couple of places we'll get into to help benefit even more functionality out of my devices that I use. But this one has the clickiness and it very tactile as well. But what you can see in the image on the right is it has this optical laser reader that reads the button as it passes the threshold. And you can see this one has an extra sensitive. It's instantaneously, as soon as it's touched and hit, it breaks that laser beam. And that's why they call it the Opto. The K350. Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you, Joe. So that it is a little more tactile. It does have the tactile feedback, but it is a little bit more instantaneous too. So it's a little more responsive. And for $80, it's just a little cheaper than the last one. Logitech G7. This was one of my favorite mice I had. They don't really make it anymore. And so that's why I had to go to this newer one I've got. The 700, I think the biggest reason I liked it because it had so many profiles. So you had what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, just regular macro type buttons, right? Plus you had your left, right, center, but then you had your wheel that would go left and right as well. And each one of those functions, even the wheel being pushed left and right, could be turned into a macro to do something, right? So in my case, I would say move the mouse to the left, it minimized the screen. Move the mouse to the right, mouse wheel to the right, and it closed the screen. Alt F4, right? As Brad likes to tell everybody to do in the middle of work. Yeah. So it has that many features and functions, and you could tell the right and left mouse button to do something completely different than what you wanted it to based on the macro program that Logitech gives you. But there, and this is the main reason I went with this one too. The button right underneath the mouse allows your wheel to free spin. Right. So most mice have where they spin to each notch. And so that basically relieves the mouse and allows you to free spin. If you're in a simple model that's not got a lot of complexity, it'll zoom real far, real quick, and zoom back out as well, real quick. And then the button underneath that is a profile button. And I can't remember, it's 1, 2, 3, I think 6 different profiles you could have. The lights would light up accordingly, and then you get like 1 light in each spot, or 2 lights, or 3 lights. And so it would have 6 different profiles. So not only did those buttons function that one macro, if you change the profile, it would function in a different way. This one you had to manually change it. The macro pad that I've used forever, and they don't make it anymore, and it hurts my feelings a little bit because I wear them out. I really do. But it's actually program specific, and I'll get into that in a minute as well. As far as the keyboard, we already jumped into the mice. Does anybody have a specific keyboard that you guys use and you like, or is there any reason? No. Cool.
I have the RAZR.
Yeah, the RAZR Huntsman. Cool. That's the one we was just on. This one here. Bluetooth. Cool. Extra clicky. So this is a Logitech G600. I've seen people with this. It's got a lot of buttons, and I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I could probably get used to it, but they're just. I have fat fingers, and so for me to hit some of those, sometimes I feel like I would hit the wrong one. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, the front one.
So do you use this one?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's like part of this corner, but you're like not think.
Yeah.
The rest is for the inside one.
That's a great point where your thumb likes to rest. I really like that because in any of my macro devices that I use, I have a home position for my hand, very much like a keyboard. If anybody's ever taken a typing class, I don't even know is that a thing anymore? Are typing classes even around anymore?
My 8-year-old learned how to type when he was like 5.
Yeah, I remember back when I was in, I think, middle school, we had to go through a typing class, and you learned where your home or your default hand position was, right? I think it's like your index fingers on J and F, and then everything flows from there. And that's actually my keyboard actually has an indentation, I guess, from that. So that having your thumb and your hand in the right position, having that home position, knowing where you're at, you can do it without thinking, right? You like you said, you just click the ones you know. And that's why I challenge people in a lot of things. You'll see it in my call to action. I think Brad brought it up in his as well, is taking one step at a time. You do 4 buttons, then challenge yourself to 5, and then challenge. Yeah. Yeah.
Let me make that a shortcut.
Yeah. That's a good point too.
You can print out all of your hotkeys and then leave them up somewhere so you can see.
Yeah. My son, who's an engineering student now, he works at a facility where they make molds for plastic injection. And he calls me up every now and again and asks for tips or tricks, or if he's stuck on something, he'll ask me. And he said, Dad, he said, I have to keep going through this process and clicking the linear pattern, clicking down and going to the section I want and clicking that. It's like a ton of mouse clicks, and I'm having to do it every time, and it sucks. And I said, son, have you heard about mouse gestures? He said, nope. I said, let me teach you. And I said, anytime you do something repetitively, create a mouse gesture for it, right? And it kind of struck home when you said that about, your macros. Oh, I do that 100 times. I need a macro for that, right? Yeah. 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 Because sometimes we get stuck in redundant processes, right? Yeah. So that's a great explanation for that. This one has the 3 buttons on the mouse as well as the mouse wheel. I think Brad's 3D Connection mouse has that as well. And so you can give extra functionality to your mouse that way. So I could get used to this one. The one I chose is this one here, the Logitech G604, because it was a little simplified. The only downside I didn't have to this is I don't have the profile feature like the last one. So when I said, okay, I can't get the 700 anymore, I said, I'll settle with this one. This is the one I settled with, $60. The batteries last forever in it. It still does have the left and the right, very similar to the last one too. Sorry, my mouse, I picked my mouse up and thought I was changing slides, I guess. So it does have that, it does have the free spin feature, and that's one of the things I was looking for. I really like that free spin feature of the mouse. And it has 6 buttons. Those are all programmable. When the plus and minus button on there is actually standard a DPI setting. Does anybody not know what a DPI setting is? It's fine if you don't. So you seen all those screens I have on my computer? If I had my DPI setting really low, it would probably take me 30 minutes to go from one all the way to the other, because basically what that does is slow your pointer speed down, right? Crank the DPI speeding up, you move around faster, you get from one screen to the other quick. But I didn't need that. I have a standard DPI setting that I was using for that computer. So you are able to change that too. So that is my copy and paste. And I used it on the last one that way, and I use it on this one that way. I love that being my copy and paste. It's at my fingers. I use copy and paste all the time. It makes sense. And it is Bluetooth. It's not only Bluetooth, it has a dongle as well. So I use it in both scenarios. When I'm away from my computer, I use the Bluetooth. Or I'm sorry, when I'm away from my desk, I use the Bluetooth. When I'm at my desk, I use the dongle. And the reason I use the dongle is because I have a switch between a couple computers. So I can hit control 1, and I don't showcase that here, so I'm just kind of talking about it. You control 1 goes to one PC, control 2 goes to the other PC. And because I have those dongles for my keyboard and my mouse plugged into it, it will switch and apply my keyboard and mouse settings to both PCs. So that way I don't have to worry about, grabbing another keyboard or another mouse or anything. Super nerd. Anomaly. So this is the Logitech MX vertical wireless mouse. It's $90. Has anybody used something similar to this? So I had a buddy at work. He got one at World one year and he used it. He loved it. Actually, I'll show you the one he got here in a minute. But they say this is super ergonomic. I don't know if I can get used to it. It does put your hand in a better position to help reduce carpal tunnel. And so instead of running this way all the time, it's your hand's natural position. Right. And this one is a preset at 57 degrees. It does have a few hotkeys or programmable keys on it. That's why I like the Logitech. They really have some solid macro software out there that you can use. And I'll show you a little bit of that. This is the one he had. It was an adjustable one. He got it at World. So you can adjust it to whatever angle you want. You can go completely vertical all the way down to almost flat. And of course, it's basically got the back and forward button. I'm not sure you can change it either. I think it's just automatically back and forward. Anybody have a special mouse besides you that you guys like, or
That one.
that one?
Mouse.
The 3D connection.
Wireless Mouse Pro is amazing.
602, very similar to the 604.
Okay. Like it? Do you program the buttons, or do you just kind of leave them stock, or auto hotkey? That's cool. I'll have to write that down. Auto hotkey. And auto hotkey helps run your Logitech mouse keys. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, so I do a little bit of that as well, and I'll show you that here in just a minute. I'm not revealing too many passwords. You may not know where it's going, so it might be okay.
I want to show you this mouse real quick. This is one that our engineer at work has.
Oh, cool.
It's if anybody wants to see it later, it's called a Penguin.
A Penguin. That's interesting. I'll pull that up here in just a moment. So anybody use keypads or macro pads?
Joe does Logitech TrackBall.
Logitech TrackBall. Remember back in the day when TrackBall is he talking about one that has the ball on top you're rotating with your thumb? Yeah. So I remember back in the day a lot of people use those, especially in other software. They take a little bit of getting used to. So RAZR Tartarus is $65, and when my macro pad that I have now dies, again for the second or third time. I've had to buy parts and fix it. Like I said, I wear it out. This will probably be my next go-to, I think. It looks very ergonomic. It has about the same amount of keys and everything. And they're basically game pads, right? People who play games on computers use them. But they don't have to be used for computers. That's what I was kind of talking about in the beginning. Taking things that are used for something else and using them and applying them for your use case and making yourself more efficient by doing that. It's thinking outside the box, right? And I do that with a few other things I'm going to get into, but this will probably be my next one. And why do I like it? Why do I like gaming pads? Well, this is the one I have, right? I really like, what is the Space Mouse, the Mac Daddy Enterprise Space Mouse? Yeah, right. Brad said I've got the Enterprise at the house. I might as well have the Enterprise Space Mouse. So I like it because it's got a lot of macro pads. Plus, it's got the Space Mouse. Don't think it's got enough macro buttons for me though, and that's probably why I don't use it. But what I do use sometimes is I'll take this, and you see that little V right above the joystick thumb command button there. I'll take my Space Mouse and just tuck it right in there, and then I've got my own handmade Enterprise, right? So I've got my Space Mouse and then my macro pad, and that's a lot of buttons, and you can go in and program all this stuff, right? And I think that's why Brad nicknamed me an anomaly last year's IronSWUG, because he was using my computer for one of the presentations and realized that none of my hotkeys were standard out of the box SolidWorks hotkeys. And when he hit a hotkey, it just about broke everything. So yeah, I probably should have warned him about that. But it's because I change things and I make them fit the macro pad. And then I have certain functions that say, if it was S, it'll be Control S, or, you know, different scenarios where maybe it's Control Shift something. And so I'm duplicating processes on the same key by well, the buttons around the joystick are my Control and my Shift, right? The bottom button below that joystick, that one's done. I've already killed it, right? Because that was my Control button, and I use Control so much that one's done now. So I moved Control into the joystick, because the joystick could go left, right, up, down, and then depress, right? And so each one of those ways is another macro that you can apply, whether it be Control, Shift, or a hotkey, or whatever you want to make it, right? A key command. What's even better about this, and I hope the other one does the same thing, because if it does, it's really going to make me happy, and I might not be so depressed if this thing dies, is this has a lot of profiles as well. So above the main keypad portion, you see a line of buttons there. It's an M1, M2, M3, and then a memory record, right? So you can actually record your macro with this keypad as well, and then store it in one of the keys. For example, typing, as you said, right? You can actually record the typing that you're doing, and then it'll record that and stick it in on the fly. But that one M1, M2, M3, those are different profiles. So now you have, what is it, 22 different buttons plus the joystick and the other buttons. You know, you probably got 30 some buttons on here 3 times, right? So you're looking at 99 buttons, right? 99 problems, and the keypad ain't mine, right? So yeah, but I don't use the M1, M2, M3 because this keypad will actually know what software I'm in. It knows if I'm in Team Center. It knows if I'm in SolidWorks. It knows if I'm checking my email. And based on those different executables being present at that given time or running at that given time, it activates the profile that I need. And so I can set up many profiles and have those keys mean different things, right? And so that's what I say when I say it's ergonomic. I'm sitting like this. It's no joke. I don't do anything. I don't click the command manager. It's either mouse gestures, shortcut bar, or macro pad. That's my world. And then if I do anything else, it's because I'm switching programs or I'm going to my keyboard to type an email. And I was going to pull this up for you. And I had it up and it was running because it was remembering me having this plugged in before I left the house to come here. And then we had that update and it killed it. And when I tried to open it after, it's like, oh, we don't have any devices plugged in, so it won't let me show it. It will let me show the newer, and it runs on an older Logitech, an older Logitech macro software. So I'll show you the newer one here. I'll probably just go ahead and pull it up because I've already showed you the mouse actually. So this is the one for my mouse. It's very similar to the one for the keyboard. And so you can see I can come in here, I can set these clicks. This is just your primary click. And if I want to change that, I can use default or disable, and I can change it to something else. That's where I told you I use copy and paste. I can change these keys if I'd like. Go to the key, or sorry, actually, macros. So you can customize these. These are the different macros I've used. And you talked about typing things out. And then I can also set timers and tell it to wait between actions as well. Like right here, I've got just a standard 25 millisecond time between each delay between each one, which isn't much. And then it goes through and basically types that password, username and password in for me. But, yep. So basically, yeah, I click the button and it goes in and it types that username and password in for me and enters, and I'm in the program that I'm wanting to use. Yeah, good question. Yep. And then you can, once you create these macros, and they're really simple to make. I mean, there's nothing really to them. Create new macro, and you go in and you can tell it whether you want to use standard hotkey functions, whether you want it to be a right mouse click, left mouse click, mouse wheel, whatever the case may be that you want to use, and tell it to do that. Now I'm looking at the top view here. If I go into my side view, you see some of those macros in here. Right. I love my buttons. And then I can go back, and one thing I do like about this, and the last one I had too, the 700 was the same way, a little bit different, but the same way, is I can tell it to store the memory on my mouse. So let's say I take my mouse and I forget my computer at home, and Dan says, "Don't worry, buddy, you can use mine while you're on the road." And he gives me his laptop to use. I've got the memory on the mouse, and so all my macros are stored here. I don't have to depend on my computer. The only reason I turned the onboard memory off was for this, because if the onboard memory is on, which it is now, and I click into it, it goes here. And I can set different profiles. It's not the same as the 700 where I could click through the profiles and see them. This is more set up based on a singular instance, and maybe you want a profile set up for SolidWorks. Maybe you want a profile set up for your email, and you can click through them here and save it. Yeah. That's probably so. Yeah. That's a good point. Because that's what the 700 has. And I just got this one. So that's a good point. I may be able to set a profile toggle into it and put it in there. Yeah. So this used to be the dedicated button on the 700. And on this one, it is now the connection for your Bluetooth connection, or to toggle between Bluetooth and USB. But you're right. I may look into that, because that's a good point, because it does have profiles and slots. Maybe I can go in and set a dedicated profile button to toggle through those. The reason I don't focus on it too much, and even when I had the 700, I think I only did 2 profiles because it wasn't automatic. And with the macro pad, it's automatic, right? It looks at the program I'm running and says, okay, I need to run SolidWorks macros, or okay, I need to run email, right? So it's really cool software, and it's really simple. It's easy to use. There's not much to it. So much so, let's go ahead and try and create one real quick. So macro, create a new macro. IronSWUG. And so you can tell if it's a toggle, if it's a sequence, if you want it to repeat or no repeat. And we'll just say no repeat, and you hit start now. And you can record the keystrokes. You got text and emojis you can use, actions, launch applications, systems, and delays. So if we just record keystrokes and I just started typing, right, that's what it's going to play. So if I save that and assign it to one of my keys, and then I hit that key wherever I'm at, it's going to put that in for me. Right. And if those keys already exist, and say I just accidentally hit the scroll, right? So if I wanted to use scroll, I could do that. Yeah, so you record it that easy. You can use the standard delays or you can change them. Sometimes you need to increase your delays if the software or whatever you're doing doesn't recognize something pretty quick. Like I know maybe there's an instance when I'm creating a new part and what we're doing, and I have to go in and I have to select the organization that I'm doing it for. Sometimes it takes just a minute to do that. And so I may want to set a 1.5 second delay for it to be able to pick that and select it before I move on to maybe my shift tab or whatever it is to get me to the next process in the screen to select the OK. And you could change that stuff on the fly too that we looked at a minute ago. Okay. So I was going to show you the Logitech gaming software, but that was the issue with it. I did show you the 604, and actually the webcam works on that same one as the mouse does. It's just newer software, and that's I think where they're going to from where this one was. But Logitech just makes really great software, and you don't even have to have the Logitech devices to download the software. Software is free. You can just go on Google and look for the software. I think it's called G-Hub. Logitech G-Hub.
Yes.
You can just go on Google and download it. Don't guarantee it's going to work for any mouse you got, but you know, the software is free. So even if you want to go play around and see if you could write a macro before you even get it, give it a try. Stream Deck. Does anybody know what Stream Deck is? This is another device taking from one application and put in another. Does anybody know what Stream Deck is? Stream Deck is used mostly by YouTubers, influencers, people maybe in the audio industry or podcasts or stuff like that. They call them pages, is what it is. And they can be anywhere from $80 to $250, right? The $80 is just that little one with 6 buttons. And they grow in size. And of course, that Mac Daddy over on the right-hand side is $250. What happens is you kind of see these buttons. You got a power button on the one on the right-hand side. It looks like you may have an internet button over there. When you click those buttons, and the reason they call them pages is because you click that button, it automatically reloads those buttons. If you have it set up this way, it'll reload those buttons to whatever that device is that you're using or that program you're using, right? So let's use the internet button, right? It's, I think, on the second from the right, second from the top. Looks like a little globe, right? It'd be the internet button. I don't know, maybe it's not. You click that button, it'll automatically say, okay, well, here's all these different web pages you may want, or here's a copy paste feature, whatever. And so all those other buttons, and they're actually LED, so the pictures change, right? It's almost like having a little screen inside of each button that changes. And so I seen this and I was investigating. I was like, that's pretty cool. But man, $80 to $250, and I'm basically paying for the number of keys I get. That just doesn't make much sense to me. I mean, I understand using it. And I think what a lot of YouTubers and streamers will do is they'll use it to say, you know, maybe they're talking about a race car and they want to hear a race car engine. They'll hit the button and it'll go vroom, 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 you know, and make the noises for them and that kind of stuff. That's where they get a lot of their sound effects from. So
churches use Stream Deck.
Huh?
Just as a lot of churches use Stream Deck.
A lot of churches use Stream Deck. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, so if you need an audience to applaud for you, you know, like yesterday they didn't applaud for me because I was applauding for the winners. So I could have applauded for myself if I had one of those, right? And hit the applaud button. But cricket noise for when people don't answer Brad's question. Yeah, Brad's been looking for a cricket noise this trip, or no questions. And so that's really cool. And I thought, man, that's amazing. So I started digging down this wormhole a little bit more, right? And as I dug down the wormhole a little bit more, I found this Touch Portal for $12.99. It's just like a Stream Deck. It's actually free. I'm forgetting how many keys. You only get one page, and I'm wanting to say maybe you get 10 keys or 11 keys or something like that. And it's used not by a box that you have to buy, but you can use any device. You can use your cell phone. You can use a tablet. In my case, you see in the left picture, does anybody, I know it's hard to see, it's a little blurry, right? I took it in the dark and the picture in the dark for the colors to show up. Does anybody know what kind of device that is? Close. Amazon Fire Tablet. So work one year for Christmas said, we're giving everybody Fire tablets, right? It was just, I think, a little 7-inch, 8-inch Fire tablet, whatever it was. And so they're giving them out to everybody, and I put it to the side. I don't know what I'm going to use that for. I've got tablets. I've got computers. I'm a tech guy, so I just have all kinds of junk like that laying around anyway. Well, it's just something else, you know, I didn't know what to use it for. Came across this, I said, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to backdoor this thing, put Google Play, because you have to have Google Play or Apple, right, on your phone or device to use Touch Portal on it. Well, Amazon Fire Tablet, of course, doesn't have Google Play. They have the Amazon store. So I backdoored the tablet and put Google Play on it, then downloaded the Touch Portal, right? And the cool thing about this is I think only for Android right now you can plug into your computer through the tablet. But for Android or Apple, if you're on the same Wi-Fi, right, on the same internet, it'll actually connect itself to your computer, right? And so that's how it links and sees what's going on your PC and how it interfaces. I like the Android side of it because I can plug it in USB-C into the tablet, USB-C straight into the computer. But guess what? It also gives my tablet power. Don't have to worry about it dying at any point in time. So it's dual purpose plug-in, right? Plus, I've not really tried the Wi-Fi version of it, but I feel like anything that's plugged in is going to probably work a little more streamlined and not have a lag or anything. And so with this, what did I do? What program's running right now on it? On the left side. Anybody tell by the logo in the middle of the tablet? Zoom, yeah. So if I'm on Zoom, I can say, okay, hit the home button, share a screen, pause my feed, whatever I want to do just from that. But how did I get to that screen? So let's swap over just for a second and pull it up. So this is the interface for Touch Portal. Now, what I said is free for one page and for, I think, 10 buttons or something like that. $12.99 will pay for a lifetime subscription of whatever you want to do with this thing. It's dirt cheap, in my opinion, especially when you look at compared to the Stream Deck. And so this is what I've got set up. So I've got VLC player. Anybody use VLC player? Love it. I think it plays everything and decodes any kind of auto codecs you may have issues with, right? But I also have, let's see, Zoom. I have my Windows button, some other stuff in there. Anybody use Gimpy for photo editing sometimes? That's me. Some other stuff you may not recognize. OBS Studios, that's another one if anybody's ever used that. It's a really cool program to help make videos or tutorials and stuff with. So what happens when I click this button? Well, say I click the Windows button. So I come in here and I've created this page. Now, one thing they tell you is when you create a page is don't get rid of the back button or whatever, the home button, because it'll create a home button for you. Because if you do, you can't get back to your home page without doing a little bit of funny business. So Windows button kind of gives me my CPU, my temperatures and that kind of stuff, right? What if I go to Zoom? We talked about Zoom. Well, here's Outlook, right? If I go to Outlook, hit the Outlook button. If I hit SolidWorks button, everybody loves SolidWorks, right? Now I've freed up my hand. I don't have to go to Command Manager. I don't even have to remember macros. So if I don't want a macro pad, put this in, and I can hit things right there with this hand while I'm rotating my model with the other one. Right? So we've reversed what the Space Mouse does. Okay. Yeah, so I click any of these, you know, projected views, open drawings. Yeah, so there's a lot of cool stuff in here for that. And again, there's the home button. That home button basically takes me back to that first page I was showing you. Right. Now let's just scroll through here just a little bit more. Of course, if anybody uses Teams, that's the one I created for Teams. Right. And these are very simple to create. They're pretty self-explanatory. And there's the Zoom one. Thought I had one in here for, okay, GIMP. Some of these you can actually download, and I'll take you to the website here in just a second. Voice meter. Voice meter is something that helps if you talk, you know, use Zoom or whatever, and you want yourself to have that perfect podcast voice. Voice meter will do it for you. That's freeware too. Let's go back. Yeah, sure can. Yeah. So what do we look at when we create this button? Well, let's go to the VLC player, right? Basically, all I did here is I told it to go to page, and I looked at the VLC player and basically told it to activate that executable. That was pretty simple. Trying to find some. Let me go back to the SolidWorks one. I'm gonna use something that you got that's not like to us. Projected view, Control Shift V, right? So in my hotkey section of SolidWorks, I went in and made the projected view be a hotkey of Control Shift V, and then implemented it here and told it projected view. I can add an image to that. If I wanted to, I could change how it looks.
Download the little icons for.
You
SolidWorks.
can actually. That's how I did most of the home button stuff. And I actually went to Dylan and for some of the macros that we have, the guy that created those macros put little thumbnails in for those macros. And so I actually asked him to send me the pack where the macros was, so I could actually import those and use those as well. Let's go back to home. Yeah, so I just put the image in. Yeah, right here. Just get your image. They have a file pack. They have a lot of cool stuff on here you can do. You can change your grid buttons, the spacing, change your image for the background here. Notice there's spacing there. Those are empty buttons that I could add. You can do anything from navigate to run utilities. You can run logic, some if, ands, whats, and all that cool stuff. I mean, there's Touch Portal really gets into some detailed macros. And it's also application specific. So I don't need to always go over and hit my SolidWorks button or my Outlook button. If I go to Outlook, Touch Portal will automatically change over to Outlook, just like my macro pad would. Right. So it's smart in the sense that it knows what program you're actively running as well. And so that helps. It also does have some standard out of the box functionalities that they have, I guess, partnered with and run with, whether Streamlabs, right? Twitter, Twitch, Photoshop. So you can add stuff in just directly from that and create buttons as well. If that's stuff you're into and want to use. Let me go ahead, and I don't think I had it pulled up, but I want to pull it up real quick. Just to show you what it is. So this is Touch Portal's website. You can go on Google, just type in Touch Portal, and you'll find it. And it basically tells you exactly what it is, what it does. This is the ones that they kind of partnership with and work with natively. Already have buttons and features in there. This is telling you basically how you create your multi-action macro button. So you create those buttons, and it can go in, change pages, and create those buttons in the background for you. Nope, Google, I'm not talking to you. Anybody have that happen before? This is talking about how is that multi-layer, right? And changing those buttons and using those buttons. Some integrated services that are already there. You can see other stuff they've already worked with and do. And there are some tables and pages that are already set up that you can actually download and just run, where people have already set these up. Of course, be careful, be mindful. You always want to be mindful of whatever you're downloading and getting into for some of these plugins. So this is the popular pages. This is where you have people that are submitting pages that they've created, right? So you can go in here and grab some of this stuff. And some of it I have grabbed. That's actually where I grabbed my Zoom, and then I rearranged the Zoom and used what I wanted to. So I didn't use it stock from what they gave it to me. Okay, it's went up to $13.99. I'm sorry, inflation got you by $1. Supply and demand. This is just really cool. And like I said, it's free if you just want to start using it, use some of the basic features and just see if it's for you and you want to play with it. Very much, and here's your downloads. Very much like the Stream Deck. It's just, in my opinion, more user-friendly and stuff. And you can create multiple actions. Actually, one really cool thing about Touch Portal is with the mouse stuff, right? You guys seen how I created the macro where it typed in my username and my password and then entered into the software? And I have to preference this, as long as you're using the same setup, as long as you're using the same monitor setup, as long as you're using, say, Google Chrome on your right screen the same way every time, or as long as you're putting SolidWorks in your front screen and everything's kind of set up the same, this, what I'm going to tell you, works. It will actually locate when you write a macro, or you want to say you have this field. I don't know, I'm trying to, so I have a situation where I use it. say you have this field that it doesn't automatically default in for you to type into, right? But you need to type into it quick. You need to put something in you're doing all the time and let it go into that field and then tab through the next parts of it and then hit OK or whatever the case is. And maybe you can't even hit tab and get to OK, right? Well, as long as it's located in the same place every time, you can tell Touch Portal this location on this screen. So it's basically looking at all your screens or whatever screens you have set up, and it's saying this coordinates, basically using a coordinate system over here on this right screen at this spot. I need to click, then type, whether it's right mouse click or left mouse click, type, do all my stuff, and then I need to come back over here to this screen and click OK, if that's the case. So I'm just making that scenario up. It's very close to what I have going on, and it knows where to click based off of the coordinates of the screen. But again, be mindful. You just got to make sure you're setting your software up all the time the same way. And in my case, it is because I don't know about you guys, but it kind of, your software kind of starts defaulting to where you put it at the last point. So it's going to do that anyway. But something our macro guy actually created is called a shortcut thing. It's this right here. And I use this button right here. It's called startup. And if I go in and I look at that startup macro, it basically, when I turn my computer on, I hit startup, it loads everything that I need to work with. So it starts up SolidWorks, starts up my emails, it starts up my Team Center, it starts up YouTube, whatever the case is, Spotify. Yeah. So that's a pretty cool thing. So it kind of helps load everything up. So just make sure you're putting your windows in the same place and that'll work. So that's one thing I found was probably the coolest thing about Touch Portal, is that not only do I not have to take my mouse and click in the fields anymore, I can hit the button on Touch Portal, it clicks in the fields, types what I want, and then goes on and clicks wherever else I need it to. Touch Portal. So yeah, this is just kind of the software I was showing you in Touch Portal, so I'll skip past this. That just shows the open file for SolidWorks. So that I hit SolidWorks, it opens it up for me, kind of thing. Some of the miscellaneous peripheral devices I had in that image, I had a Logitech C920. That's typically what I use as my daily driver, right? I mean, I've got this DSLR, but I only use that for these use cases when I really need to get some good clarity. But that C920, it's pretty good. Yeah, it's 1080. They make some 4K ones out there that are just ridiculous in price, and in my opinion, for what people are using it for, just for meetings and stuff, the C920 is everything you need. $70. So I use this PIY painting USB condenser microphone. Got that a few years back when I did a Southeast Regional Conference or summit at in Charlotte, and used that for that. And I've been using it ever since as a daily driver for my mic. It is I forget the word for it, but it only projects and takes audio from one direction. Condenser mic, thank you. That's it, condenser. So it is a condenser mic, and it wasn't very expensive. $40 on Amazon, right? Not too bad. The Wii lights, they're RGB Bluetooth lights. I have two of them, one sitting on each side of the camera. They face at me, and you can go in on your phone or Bluetooth. I actually keep them plugged in consistently and keep them turned on consistently, or constantly, not consistently, sorry. And then I have the app on my phone, so I hit the app, I turn them on whenever I want them on. I can't connect them to the Alexa yet. Maybe one day I'll do that because everything else in my house is. But yeah, I hit that, and when it comes on, it remembers what you had it last set too. So I kind of turned the hue to a little bit of a yellow color, so that way I'm not just whited out. Have a little bit of skin pigment to myself. But yeah, those are cheap, $29. So they were cool when I first got them. I was in my buddy's car and I was opening the box. I just took it off the porch and I turned the thing on and looked at my phone. I was like, it's got a police light or a policeman thing. I turned it on, blue and red lights. Like, you turn that off. The monitors, I got those on sale Black Friday for like $100, $150 a piece. I think it was dirt cheap, but they're huge and they give me all the visualization I need. Yeah, $200. Like I said, I got them on Black Friday. 32-inch curved monitors. 24-inch Dell monitor on one side, it's $150. The one on the wall that I use for YouTube or whatever else is going on to block my attention off from everything else, just a 42-inch wall mount. I think I got it for $150 Black Friday at Walmart, right? So that is my setup. and maybe my devices will work for you. Maybe some of the things I talked about will help you out. Some of the notes that you could probably take from this is just that devices can make your job easier. Hotkey buttons can make it more efficient, and using devices outside the box for productivity can really be of benefit. So don't trap yourself into thinking, oh man, that's just for those YouTube guys. I mean, take it and try it and see what happens. Never know, right? Macros and logic are your friend. So if you can develop and write them in those programs that I showed you, Touch Portal and the Logitech G Hub and stuff, I mean, that's the basics of macro and logic writing. And that stuff will really get you going in the right direction pretty easy. Again, call to action. I mentioned I'd get to this point, and Brad kind of has too, but I always tell people, give it a try, right? Just try it. And just one thing, mentioned that earlier as well. You know, we're not going to leave here to everything Brad said or everything Adam said. You're not going to walk out and remember it. But if you can take one kernel with you and start with that and then build upon it and use another one and another one, eventually you're going to be a pretty well user that's first in a lot of different things. And that's the way my macro pad is. People say, how did you remember all those buttons? Well, I started with one, then said another one, and it became muscle memory. Talk about that in other tips and tricks, that practice doesn't make perfect. It only makes habit, right? And if we create those habits, it works. But where will you start? Because old ways won't open new doors, and make a habit of trying new things, because practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes habit. And Aristotle said, we are what we repeatedly do. So excellence then is not an act, but is a habit.